The 6 rescued orphans of the trade, the Bangkok 6, were finally returned to a rehabilitation centre in central Kalimantan, a remote part of Indonesian Borneo. Peter van der Bunt, a German biologist with the International Primate Protection League, is going to visit the centre, now preparing to receive the 10 orangutans from Taiwan. But the rehabilitation process is far from straightforward. Any attempt to reintroduce rescued baby orangutans to the wild is slow, fraught with difficulties, and carries no guarantees. Already, 3 of the Bangkok 6 have died as a result of their ordeal.
Most orangutans, the majority, seems to die during transport. Orangutan infants are, like all infant-grade apes, enormously fragile. They are susceptible for physical and various mental diseases, and they can't survive without trained infant treatment. This is one of the Bangkok 6, happily returned to the forests of Indonesia again. But compared to the actual number of orangutans which are smuggled out of Indonesia each year, it's indeed nothing. And if the smuggling of orangutans on the domestic and the international markets keeps going like this, the species will be wiped out soon. So we have to do everything to stop the animal dealers all over the world.
Many captured orangutans are taken to the capital of Indonesia, Jakarta, a threshold for international trade. Indonesia has officially protected the orangutan since 1931. To own or sell a wild one requires personal permission from the president. Inside Story went with Peter van der Bunt to the notorious Pramuka animal market.
Monkey? Yes, monkey.
As soon as we entered, we were offered monkeys.
Any monkey?
They're bringing a gibbon. What was that monkey there?
Leaf monkey. Okay.
Within minutes, we were offered a rare and officially protected siamang, its teeth filed to the gums to stop it biting. And then the word orangutan. Although wary of us, the traders were nonetheless eager to clinch a sale.
One. Babies or... Oh, baby.
Baby?
Baby. Only one. How much? 1 million.
1 million rupiah, about £250, was the price finally settled on. For a brief while, Inside Story owned a 9-month-old female orangutan, whom we christened BB.
We'll see later, probably.
One of the first things we did was report the sellers to the police. But before that, we took our distressed charge to the care of a sanctuary from where it is planned she'll be returned to the forest. The street traders may be the start of the smuggling chain, but are not the ones exporting them abroad. This is the job of middlemen, big-time dealers with international contacts. Peter van der Bunt, posing as an animal dealer himself, is going to meet one of Jakarta's biggest and richest, one accused by some of a role in the Bangkok 6 case. This is the second time Peter has gone undercover to meet Muhammad Hadi.
I met him 2 months ago, and at that time was still too suspicious to provide any kind of illegal animals. And so we're trying him again, and if he trusts me, he may offer orangutans. We never know. It's possible. I mean, those guys are really clever, and it's real risky for them to offer illegal animals here in Jakarta. And therefore we just have to see what happens.
German-educated Hardy runs a company called Hasco, which legally trades in thousands of birds and reptiles.
Ich habe mich auf diesen Briefen mal umgehört, wer mit Orang-Utans handelt. Und da hat man mir deinen Namen gegeben. Nie gesehen, nie.
If Mohammed Hardy has anything to do with orangutans, he was giving nothing away today. But an intelligence document from Australian Customs identifies Hardy as one suspect amongst others in an animal trading network. It also connects him to a dealer who has smuggled orangutans. We spoke a second time to Kurt Schaefer. His bird deals with Mohammed Hardy have given him first-hand experience of the Indonesian trader. Do you know that he is involved or has been involved with orangutans?
Yes, I know that. I saw orangutans by myself in his place before. He showed me he kept them in cages 50 or 50 centimeters and extremely bad condition. And birds or monkeys suffer there under extremely bad circumstances. He's only interested in the money he makes.
Peter van der Bunt was keen to see inside one of Mohammed Hardy's holding stations. When he knew Hardy to be away, he took us in as potential animal buyers. The foreman agreed to show us around. The station was massive. There were countless birds that flapped and pecked at one another in their cages. The dead were hung on wire mesh. In some cages we saw mammals. And we also found primates, leaf monkeys. Hardy does not have the required license to deal in anything other than birds and reptiles. We weren't able to see inside warehouses beyond this enclosure.
He offered me orangutans before. He had excellent connections in Indonesia.
You're saying he's an influential man?
Yeah. Money talks.
Indonesian officials say investigations have found nothing against Mohammed Hardy, but were willing to demonstrate to us how well they enforce their wildlife laws. They invited us to go with them on a raid of a suspected animal smuggler.
Selamat pagi. Saudara sekalian, pagi hari ini seperti kita ketahui bahwa di dalam Undang-Undang Konservasi Sumber Daya Alam Hayati dan Ekosistemnya, sanksi yang dikenakan cukup berat, yaitu bisa dikenakan hukuman selama 5 tahun dan denda sebanyak 100 juta.
The target was an animal dealer suspected of handling endangered species. Within minutes, numerous protected creatures were found and confiscated. It was an impressive action, perhaps a bit too impressive.
Nah, siapa?
Surat tugasnya dulu.
Gak usah. Nanti. Hah? Udah ada siapa ya? Yuk. Oke.
We realized the whole thing had been a set-up job to impress us. The guilty party was played by a police officer, someone we'd seen quite by chance that morning at headquarters. But there was an added irony. In their desire to impress us and put on a convincing show, the officials had commandeered a real animal showroom. As the animals were loaded up to be returned from whence they came, we also recognized the actual owner, who was watching the whole charade with considerable amusement. His name is Abu Wijaya, a self-confessed orangutan smuggler. In 1987, he signed a confession admitting his part in an attempt to take 2 orangutans to Mexico via Paris. The game was up after one orangutan escaped from its crate in the cargo shed. Kurt Schaefer knew more about who was behind the deal.
So I thought orangutans can't be only hardy. So I called him in Indonesia and said, hey, Hardy, there's an orangutan from you walking in the cargo section. He said to me, hey, no, I said, cannot be. I said, sure. You switch on the TV, you can see in Paris. So he said to me that he was chipping on another name. He said, but he was worried that the guy will tell who is behind that. And Hardy had to cover up the story after I heard that the guy brought himself a new car. So we knew Hardy paid him up.
Orangutans smuggled from Indonesia, like these two found in Paris, are typically sent down devious and roundabout routes to their destinations. The Bangkok 6 especially so. The first staging post on their grueling journey was Singapore, Southeast Asia's trading crossroads. Whether the 6 came into Singapore by sea or air, nobody's saying. But there are clues to what happened next. Documents acquired by Inside Story reveal the extent of the plot and the intrigue. Messages giving detailed shipping instructions were being sent from someone with the single initial M, and being forwarded to the Singapore connection, a Mr. Lee. The messages were sent to a company called Honey Pets, with an address that doubles as a unisex hairdressing salon. Honey Pets, together with the name Lee, became familiar to the International Primate Protection League in the States. Dr. Shirley McGreal received confidential calls from someone claiming inside knowledge about the Bangkok 6.
In one of the many conversations I had with this man who claims he was a participant in the deal, he did tell me that James Lee of Honey Pets in Singapore is the intermediate point for these orangutan shipments and a regular processor of orangutans, and that he brings them in from Indonesia and then gets them sent on their way via Bangkok or directly to the Soviet Union.
And it was according to this pattern that the Bangkok 6 were to be sold to a Russian state trading company called Produkciji. At one point, they inquired anxiously when the 3 pairs of orangutans would arrive in Moscow. The inquiry was forwarded once again to James Lee of Honey Pets. To reach the Soviet Union, the shipment had to beat complex controls. Like all members of the CITES Treaty, Singapore regulates all wildlife exports and issues permits for the many that are legal. It watches out for any shipments that are contrary to CITES rules. These Indonesian birds, part of the vast trade passing through Singapore, are checked off against permits. But nobody will guarantee the system is foolproof.
All these procedures are put in place to ensure that trade is done legally. But, like all things, where there is lucrative markets, people will always attempt to smuggle, would attempt to make a quick buck.
The attempt to smuggle the 6 orangutans directly to Moscow by air successfully evaded Singapore's controls. They got as far as the airport cargo shed. At the last minute they were refused by Aeroflot, but only because their flight was overbooked and the cargo hold full.